experiences.
You know, a lot of people, I'm included, and President Biden also, think that a lot of it is about racism and sexism. And those are the reasons that you really lost, not because of the time thing. What do you say to that? Do you think this country will ever elect a woman president? In my lifetime, probably not.
I beg to differ. I believe that we will. And listen, you know this, and I've been honored to be on this show many times and talk with this esteemed group. Every office I've held, I've been the first.
Yeah.
Usually the first woman, and then often the first woman and the first person of color. The only time actually I was the second, when I was the second Black woman ever elected to the United States Senate in its hundreds of years history. So I'm not naive. Race and gender do play a factor in some people's minds about how they vote. But my history tells me, because I have been the first in all of those, that people ultimately want to know that this is the best person to do the job, and that's their focus, and that's how I've always run. I've never run as a woman or as a person of color.
But you and Hillary
I have
Clinton,
run because I believe I'm the best to do the job.
Hold on, let me go. We're coming right back with more with Kamala Harris.
Man, I just got to keep it real here. And I'm saying this from a place of objectivity, being very objective, logical, and straight up common sense. Not from emotionalism, tribalism, or any of that identity-based nonsense. Look, people love to scream racism and sexism every time a woman or a person of color loses an election or gets criticized, but the truth is that's just lazy thinking, and it's killing honest discourse. And yes, I'm including myself when I say this. We all got to be grown enough to admit that everything ain't about race or gender, because that's how we all should look at it. And I'm gonna hold myself to the same standard as everyone else. Sometimes you just weren't the best person for the job, period. Kamala Harris made a phenomenal point. Shout out to her. Because Kamala Harris lost not because she's a Black woman, but because she ran a weak campaign, failed to separate herself from Joe Biden, and didn't present a compelling vision for the country. She had the position, the platform, and the access, and still couldn't execute. That's not oppression. That's underperformance. And you were the vice president for 4 years, the tiebreaker in the Senate, one of the most powerful political figures in the world. And the best you could say in your interview was, there's not a thing I would have done differently than Biden. Come on now. That's not loyalty. That's political suicide. That's exactly why the Trump campaign turned that clip into a weapon. It wasn't racism that did that. It was your own words, your own lack of strategic foresight, and your refusal to draw a contrast between your vision and the administration failures that you were currently on at the time, when she was, obviously, as we know, part of the Biden administration. And the American people aren't stupid. They voted the way they did. Their voices got heard by their vote, and they were hurting. Groceries were through the roof. Gas prices was disrespectful. Rent was breaking people's backs. And you think folks cared about identity politics or running in the Victim Olympics when they were choosing between paying for food or keeping the lights on? What they cared about was leadership. What they wanted was accountability. And Trump, for all his flaws, all the media drama, all the chaos, he was offering what sounded like solutions. Bring costs down, fix the border, put Americans first or America first, strengthen the economy, restore common sense with straightforward answers. And whether you like the guy or not, a lot of that resonated with the economy and restored common sense, right? Because people could feel that something under Biden wasn't working. Now, Kamala had a chance to be different. She had the resume, she had the stage, she had the narrative, and she leaned too hard on being the first instead of being the best. You can be the first at something, but doesn't mean that you're the best at it. That's the problem with this obsession with first. it becomes a shield, a deflection, a built-in excuse. Because if you win, it's historic. But if you lose to America, then America is too racist or too sexist to evolve. Why would Joy Behar say something like that? And I'm glad Kamala Harris didn't fall into that divisive rhetoric. That kind of victimhood culture is dangerous because it removes accountability. So many people that look up to Kamala Harris, if she was to say that type of rhetoric, then other people will actually seep into the same mindset. It's a mindset thing. It's like losing a basketball game and blaming the refs every single time instead of looking at the fact that your team didn't play defense or couldn't hit a free throw.
Has the question.
Madam Vice President, before the election, 2/3 of Americans felt that the country was on the wrong track, according to an NBC poll.
Exactly.
On issues like the border, cost of living, the perception of crime, 43% of Americans felt like Joe Biden's policies had personally hurt them. Understanding that many people saw you as an extension of Joe Biden, were there glaring warning signs that when there's only two options to vote on, that you missed going into Election Day?
You know, I write about it, as you all know, in the book, and I know that's probably the first chapter you read is my chapter on The View. But it really, the book is about a reflection. And that day in that interview, for me, really was symbolic of the issue. It did not create the issue, but it was symbolic of the issue, which is that I'm a loyal person. And I didn't fully appreciate how much people wanted to know there was a difference between me and President Biden. I thought it was obvious. And I didn't want to offer a difference in a way that would be received or suggested to be a criticism. And you know, in the campaign, full time I was pointing out the differences. My theory of the case was we need to bring costs down. We're going to extend the child tax credit. We're going to have Medicare cover home health care for people, including people in the sandwich generation who are raising young children and taking care of their parents. It was about we're going to take on price gouging, bringing down costs. And I thought I was making the point. And I realize now that I didn't fully appreciate that how much of an issue it was.
Yeah, that President Biden was deeply unpopular. I did realize that. And during your appearance, and you write about it, you say, everything about my appearance on The View was going well until it wasn't. And if you recall, you were here 28 days before the election. And I asked you if there was anything you would have done differently than President Biden during the past 4 years. And you said, quote, there is not a thing that comes to mind, end quote. You write you had no idea, you just pulled the pin on a hand grenade. In the moment, I knew. The Trump campaign weaponized your answer against you, my question. And some, including James Carville and Jake Tapper, point to that answer as a turning point in your candidacy. Do you think that moment tipped the election?
No. No.
Good, because Sonny doesn't want to take the blame.
There was kind of a confessional happening here. No. Exactly. No. There were many things. I mean, listen. I do believe one of the biggest deciders of the outcome of that election was that the American people were sick of things being so expensive.
Yes.
And wanted that the prices would come down. And that's where, this is part of why I wrote the book, which is let's remember in those 107 days what Donald Trump was talking about. Yeah. First of all, he said his number one priority and the number one thing he would do was bring down costs.
Yeah.
That's what he said. And I believe there are a lot of people who voted for him believing that that's what he would do. Fast forward to today.
Yeah. Hello.
Prices are higher. The cost of food is higher. Inflation is higher.
We're not gonna get in that rhetoric because that's a different conversation. But you have to remember that Trump put in the tariffs. Trump had to stop. Trump stopped letting other countries basically take advantage of us, putting American first. And the thing was, he admitted that it's going to hurt a little bit the economy before we start seeing the actual benefit. What, Trump only been in office in 8 months? I mean, you have to look at it that the decisions from last year, yesteryear, when it comes to politics and policies, they don't just go away by overnight. Okay. The decisions that Biden made impacts the economy and impacts long term what happens economy wise before Donald Trump got in. The same way Donald Trump first term, based on his decisions, would have positively or negatively impacted the Biden administrations when they came in office. And now that the Biden administration left and Trump's back in office, the decision of the Biden administration impacts what's going on today that Trump is trying to fix. It's just like, for example, Trump has admitted, look, he kept the tariffs in place because he knew it was bringing money into the economy. They didn't get rid of it. So the thing was, Donald Trump was always trying to keep manufacturing, keep jobs, and bring the economy booming where jobs were actually here for Americans and Americans have jobs, and they were based on making sure that Americans can level up. And if you bring business here from outside countries doing business in America, you have to pay a tax for doing your business here to invest back into America because we can't go to your country and do it. But also, you need to also consider, out of respect for taxpaying citizens and Americans, you need to hire our people. Now, when Biden was in office, you have other countries like the Hyundai plant going to Mexico and jobs being outsourced to other countries while American jobs was being taken away because for cheaper labor, for cheaper cost. But then they want to still take advantage of the customers, which we all know in America, we are the biggest consumers that control the market. So Trump had to bring all that back. And then not to mention that the Democrats juiced up the job records, the job reports, and now we're seeing individuals getting laid off, creating jobs that wasn't really sustainable. And now we're seeing the impact of what Biden made in regards to the job reports where there wasn't really jobs as they were saying they were that existed. They're not sustainable. So it's going to take a minute to actually start seeing the results of Trump bringing businesses back here, them investing in America, them building manufacturing, them building chip warehouses, AI data centers. So then that creates more jobs with the investment happening in Texas and things like that, and Apple coming back. So that's a different conversation. But what I'm saying is, when it came to Joe Behar, and I'm glad, and I got to give Kamala credit, she didn't fall into that sexist racism thing because we had Obama. Barack Obama was the president twice. So you can't keep leaning on that excuse when the results don't go your way. Start talking this racism, divisive rhetoric. And I got to give Kamala credit for one thing. She put the host of The View in a place and they tried to paint her as a victim because she said it straight. Like I said, people vote for who they believe is the best person for the job. Boom. That's the truth. That's the whole point. But here's where she fumbled. She didn't believe that enough to campaign like it. Instead, she tried to play it safe. She didn't want to step on Joe Biden's toes, didn't want to alienate anyone, and ended up alienating everybody. And she tried to be everything to everyone and wound up standing for nothing. And that's politics 101. She let perception run the show and ignore reality. And let's be clear, the policies under Biden were not resonating. Border wide open, inflation through the roof, crime on the rise, government spending bloated like never before, and Kamala was silent. Not leading, just nodding her head. Just loyal. And then when things fell apart, suddenly it's sexism fault, according to Joe Behar. Come on. Come on now. Meanwhile, under Trump, whether you like him or not, we saw economic growth, manufacturing brought back, international deals being renegotiated, and real attempt to protect American jobs. And the H-1B visa reforms, that's about hiring Americans and cutting government bloat. That's about respecting taxpayers. He wasn't just saying things. He was actually trying to implement policies. And now that Trump is back with less than a year, inflation is down, job commitments are way up, and people are starting to feel hope again. That ain't feeling, that's just facts. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and got some value from it. On that note, family, peace.